Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host, Matt Marrero, along with the other host.
They call me Jack.
They call me being trolled by Adult Swim on April fucking Fool's Day.
That too.
This is, you know what this is, Tristan? This is karmic retribution, because you want to know what I did on our Those Guys Play YouTube channel?
What did you do? Oh, I know what you did.
Did you see what I posted? You saw what I posted,
you're
didn't you?
Scum.
But
you're scum. I'm sorry, I can't even defend you.
Did I really convince you that a year plus before release date?
No.
All right, if anyone doesn't know what happened.
You didn't convince me, but God damn it.
If anyone doesn't know what happened on our Those Guys Play YouTube channel, I don't like to really indulge in April Fools usually because I'm not a big fan of pranks, but I just thought that we can indulge this year, try and get in a little bit on the fun. So because April 1st is actually, and this is not a joke, you can look this up, the anniversary of the Pokemon anime, I wanted to release Pokemon Red for Matt Beats Games from His Childhood, the first episode. So I did that, and I thought about it, and I was like, wait, no, but it's April Fool's. Let me just, make it a little funny and say that it's actually the release, leaked Let's Play of Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, for anyone that was like, Matt, you're Aku, you have to understand, our video would have been taken down so fucking hard that I wouldn't have even been able to let it go past the upload phase.
True.
If it was actual Kingdom Hearts 3 leaked footage. Our channel would be so annihilated. Honestly, it would be bad. Not as bad as Jack losing the sword, but I think somewhere in that area.
Speaking of which, well, Matt, I mean, I introduced myself as Jack, so you must be Aku by default. So, I mean, that's
at this point, yeah.
Then and there.
So anyway,
but yes.
So here's the thing, right? So we're doing Samurai Jack Season 5. Now, some of you are wondering, you're listening to this in the future, all jokes aside, not even being serious, and you're wondering, why did he say that they got trolled by Adult Swim on April 1st? Well, Samurai Jack always airs at 11 p.m. on Adult Swim every Saturday. I haven't been seeing them live, but I do have them on my DVR, so I know this, right? So I did something we did something very rare because recently, for a long time now, honestly, none of our podcasts have been officially live, right? They've been pre-taped and then aired live, later, and maybe like a day later or 2 days or 3 days. So we haven't really been live for a while because shit happens, right? Just simply, Tristan, shit happens.
Right.
But I said, you know what? We're going to be at 4 episodes of Samurai Jack. Fuck it. Let's just sit here and do the 4th episode live. And everything sort of lined up correctly. I had work today, so that was a bit of a problem. But, I said, hey, can you not hang out with some of our, friends who we film with, too. We actually, and we haven't podcasted, sadly, with Anthony Toto. But we film with Anthony Toto. We do Paper Mario Thousand Year Door with him. We do Animal Crossing, right, on our Those Guys Play channel. So these are friends of ours, but I said, hey, listen, can you step away from hanging out with the guys for tonight just so we can do a live Samurai Jack podcast? And you were hyped in a way because you're like, oh, I get to see it live. Perfect.
Right.
And it was really frustrating because, honestly, even me, I was like, oh, I get to see it live, and it's great. And they're airing an episode of Rick and Morty. I'm not caught up, but from what I'm looking at, I really fucking should watch Season 2. So that's my takeaway from this podcast. Go watch Season 2 of Rick and Morty, Matt. And it really shouldn't have been because, here's the thing, too, right? If this is their version of, we're just fucking around for April Fools, you should probably put a little bit more work into it. I heard last night they actually put laugh tracks all over some of their shows.
Right. Oh, geez.
So they did a good job last night transitioning into today. But I feel like today into tomorrow, because, we do this podcast 11:30 p.m., so I don't think they're doing a good job because, if they're going to just air Samurai Jack an hour earlier, that would piss me off and that would just be dumb. I don't know, maybe, look, I'm not running a network, right? I'm just saying that I do think it might be better if they just skip this week. That would be a better joke than just being like, no, just wait an hour. Especially because then I'd have to, we're doing the podcast while it's on in the background. Quickly, Tristan, put on the closed captions.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's I mean, it'll probably be next week, and they'll probably just continue on with the regular schedule at 12. But because I think
at 11. You mean?
No, like at 12, because I think they were airing it like the Rick and Morty, because it's supposed to be the premiere of season 3, episode 1, like earlier than anyone actually expected, and it's going till 12, and then.
So that's what this is. Oh, shit, son. Because here's the thing, too, right? Everyone has to understand something that's really frustrating. Okay, so then actually, I'm sorry. Now that you've told me this, now that I know this is actually a really funny joke. Never mind Adult Swim. I think it's hilarious. I love you guys. Now, the reason why I'm upset, though, is because my DVR still lists this as Samurai Jack. So, I mean, again, that's the point. That's the point, though. Like, obviously, like, you're not supposed to know. But the problem is that, like, I really don't know. Like, I know it's kind of like, no, but it's April Fool's. You don't know what's going on. Ha. No, but, like, I really don't. And it's a problem because, you know, like, I don't even know if they're still doing, like, Toonami tonight.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk about the show, because the show is what fucking matters. And we're doing 3 episodes instead of 4, but it's okay. We'll make up for it somehow. Right? In the future.
Yeah.
It'll be great. The next time I get you to do a podcast, it'll be Memorial Day. Jack doesn't air tonight, man. Memorial Day weekend. Anyway, so I usually start off every single podcast, and technically I already have by doing this little rant, but like I start off every podcast usually talking about the show, but because this is something that's, you know, more near and dear to your heart, you're the one who grew up with this, you're the one who's seeing New Jack for the first time after, you know, what is it, 13 years, right?
Yeah,
I think I should give the mic over to you. So far, with these 3 episodes, how do you feel about the season?
I mean, I've loved what they've done with the season so far. I think Genndy and his team are still at the top of their game. I mean, This is supposed to be the end. Like, this is their final season. At least that's what they're, you know, advertising it as.
It fucking better be. Because I got to be honest, I would love more Jack, but I hate it when shows, and this has happened before, I don't know if you've really experienced this, I hate it when shows say, the final season, and or they seem to imply that it's only a mini-series, but then it does so well, they're like, so season 2, and it's like, no fuckers, you don't get to decide that. You just called it a mini-series. And here's the thing, too. You might be like, but, Matt, if it gets popular, they can try to bring it back next season. But imagine it being promoted as a mini-series, but then have an open ending, so that it's not fully, like, finished and closed, and then it gets green-lighted for a second season. And it's like, so you straight up lied, right? Like, you just lied to me. Despite, you know, it doesn't matter how much I like Wayward Pines. Oh, shit, he just said it out loud. It doesn't matter how much I like it. You lied to me.
Right.
So I don't want that to be a problem here, where they're like, oh, no, actually, you know, this is going to come out, you know, this is going to be only 1 season long. And then it's like, well, actually, it's really popular, so we're gonna bring Jack back, even if it's just for another season, and it's only 6 seasons. Still not a fan. Do not want that at all.
Right.
Really hope that does not happen.
Yeah.
But please keep talking. Sorry about that.
I think it definitely, like, Genndy Tartakovsky doesn't strike me as the type to do something like that. I mean, it may not be his call in the end, but like, with his series, I don't think that's the direction he would take his series, or even the other, you know, all the other people that he is working with him to do this. Because I'm sure a lot of the other, you know, animators, storyboard writers, they've all carried on from Jack in the first, you know, 4 seasons to this one as well. So, yeah, I'm really. I do really like what they've done. It kind of feels like, I don't know, I guess in a weird way, Jack has kind of aged up with us, even though Jack was technically always older than us anyway. So.
Not really. I'm pretty sure he was, well, it's funny. At this age, the age that we are right now, I'm pretty sure that he was this age or younger when the show actually started. But yes, you are correct. Yeah, I know. Like, when in terms of aging, he was always, like, obviously we were, kids when we first got introduced to the show. But it's interesting. No, I thought you were going to make the joke that he doesn't actually age from the looks of it. So it's like he aged up with us, even though he didn't actually.
I mean, well, but more of, I don't know. I guess it kind of feels in a way like life catches up to you no matter who you are. And that may be kind of a downer note, but like.
But that's kind of, that's part of the show at this point.
Yeah, it makes him feel more human than I guess he would before, because he's. So,
yeah. Well, he's definitely fallen from grace. Like, in a way, this is I don't want to be the person that brings in religion, but it does feel like a kind of a Jesus allegory. Like, you bring out the beard, you bring out the hair, and this is a guy who's but I'm being serious, who's literally fallen from grace. He's not the God that he once was, and you might say no, but he was always human. And he always, there's always problems. It's like, yes, but it never really felt like, minus maybe once or twice, you never sat back and thought, oh my God, Jack is going to die. Like, it really felt like you could literally have an army, which of trained super assassins, and it wouldn't be an army, it'd usually be like robots, but like trained super assassins, huge army, hundreds and hundreds, and it'd be like, but Jack's okay because he's Jack, and that's it. So I'm really happy in a way that they've taken certain things away from him that really make him a lot more vulnerable and a lot more human.
Yeah.
Because as much as I think I would have liked to see Jack on top of his game again, right? It might not have, like, that's what the problem is that, like, that's kind of what comic books are for, or that's what, like, there's certain nostalgia TV shows or certain genres that I think maybe fit that, where, like, no, you need to see so-and-so back in action. But the problem with that is that then it feels like you never left, but in a bad way.
Yeah.
So, like, something like Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion, you can have, like, the feel-good, like, it's like we never left. Yay! Like, we don't need Goku, just, like, just need to get back to training. Just need to get back in training. It's okay. The Dragon Balls will bring him back. The Dragon Balls will bring him back. Like, we don't need that,
Right, yeah.
We don't need, like, Kid Goku just, like, yelling at him. I bet you can't even get on the Magic Cloud now. Like, we don't need that shit in, like, Dragon Ball Z. But in a show like this, especially with them given a bit more free reign, I do think that it works very well. That's my take on it. Like, I do think that it's definitely needed. And it would have been a little bit jarring in a way if he had just been the same old, Samurai Jack.
Right.
And nothing really had changed. I would have liked him to be leading a revolution, I will be honest. It would have, like, I know in a way some people would say no, but then that wouldn't be Samurai Jack because he wouldn't be alone. I'm not saying they all couldn't die horrifically. But
I mean, I would argue that that's something that they're going to work up to.
Maybe, yes. But because, like, I will admit, it does feel weird, and I know that it's a serialized – no, not serialized. Sorry, it's an overarching plot now rather than being serialized as, like just standalone plots, right? My point is that because there's more of like a tie-in between every episode now, in my opinion, I do think that, it's a bit harder to introduce other concepts that they were able to introduce during the first 4 seasons. And I say this because it feels like Jack is truly alone, but to me it just comes off as like a problem because you're not, though. Like, not that I'm saying he has friends. I'm not trying to, like, say that he has friends or anything like that, but, like, there's giant cities. You know what I'm saying? Like, what has happened in the cities that he can't even walk into a city now? And they might address that later. I'm sure they will. But just as of right now, it feels like Jack is truly alone in a world that you would have thought he'd be more alone when everything first began. Now, you might say he's feeling it more now, so he's always been alone. But when the show, first started, or like was going on for those 4 years or those 4 seasons, it felt as if, even though it's like, oh, he's alone, there was always someone around. Like, there was this person or that person. So, like, I mean, I guess you can assume, sadly, that, like, the Scotsman is either dead or, like, really, really, really old so he can't fight anymore or something. But it does feel like certain characters are just like, you know, like, oh, we'll never see them again. All right, they're gone because it's been 50 years, so we're never gonna see them again. And it's kind of frustrating because I like the tone shift, I do, but I don't want it. I don't want it to seem like it's going to be dark for the sake of being dark because they can be dark now. Do you know what I mean by that?
And I don't think that they will because with I mean, we've even talked about this a little bit. The humor is still there,
which is great. Yeah, personally, you and I talked about this a little bit because you didn't spoil anything for me because once I saw season 4, like at the end of it, I then watched a trailer for season 5, which did not seem like what I thought it was going to be, and I was like, oh shit. And then you told me about the Aku therapy scene, and I said, and I was so happy because I was like, great, they're still trying to keep some of that comedy. They're not straying too far away from what they did originally. Now, I'm not saying that I would show this television show to a small child, but like this version. But I do think maybe like a 10-year-old can deal with it at this point anyway. Like, I don't think that a 10-year-old couldn't comprehend. The only potential problem is like the demonic birth.
Right.
Which
the
I'm not. It's funny. I don't have
or the daughters of Aku.
What?
Yeah.
The daughters of Aku. I don't have a problem with that. So I'm going to say this, right? And this is my only real complaint thus far. There does seem like certain things were done just to be edgy or just because they can so far, and I wasn't the biggest fan. However, those births, right, like demonic birthing, the reason why I like that is because it comes off more as a reference to Rosemary's Baby, which is another movie kind of about like demonic, like, you know, births, like kind of like the Antichrist being born.
Right.
So like that in a way doesn't seem edgy to me. Like, oh my God, you know, they did that just because, you know, they could. Like, no, it's like you do get a little bit more freedom on Adult Swim. So yeah, you're allowed to do that, and that's cool. My problem was with how bloody Jack was, or how long it went for, and how long the knife had stayed in, and like. Even though I like the way they tied the stories in together, the fact that they showed the wolf getting mangled up, like, I kind of sat there and I'm like, all right, guys, like, this doesn't need to be shown, in my opinion. Like, how mangled he was getting.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, the comparison, the side-by-side, it's the metaphor that Jack is the lone wolf.
But if it was going to be done one way, then it had to be done the same way with the wolf. I get it. It's just that one is a human and one is an animal. So it's not so it comes off as like, oh God, like that dog is being mauled, you know, and it just doesn't sit well with me. And I don't really think it sits well with the audience. Like, I know the thought is, oh no, like you said, yes, of course it's tying into Jack. Like that's obvious, right? But the problem is that I think it's very off-putting to the audience. That, like, it resembles, because you remember when I mentioned, like, oh, that, you know, the chicken thing, Chicken Jack, it resembles cockfighting?
Right.
Well, like, imagine if all that blood was red.
Right.
Like, from the Chicken Jack episode. Like, it'd be like, oh, yeah. So that was my only problem so far. Right, is that it feels like some of the blood, it was a bit too much because you're trying to make Jack seem more real and down to earth and like, oh, he's human. You know, he can get, like, now he doesn't have the sword to help him out and he's really at the end of his rope and he got stabbed. He's human. It's like, yeah, but even though they mentioned later, like his own internal persona was like, oh, you've survived worse. So in a way they are referencing like, look, you know, you have experience, yes, but they're still trying to say that he's human, and I know it's a television show and it's a cartoon, but, like, I feel like there's a difference between, like, oh, Jack can jump good versus, like, Jack survives with knife inside of him through river and then walks with it and bleeds out the entire way and then removes knife. However, I have to say 100%, I love the way the art style looked when Jack and the wolf were both covered in blood. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that was an amazing piece of art, and I do think it looked great. My only problem is that he had to bleed that much beforehand because, again, I feel like it's just like, here's the thing, too, right? My thought is always, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you have to. Right? So I do think that, like, you know, in some Batman, let's say, related television shows, I remember that, I think I mentioned this before on the Samurai Jack podcast that we do for Anna Saturday. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that the creators for Batman the Animated Series had to fight really hard just to give him a cut on his face with a little bit of blood on it. Had to fight really hard for that because, oh, no, you can't have blood in a kid's TV show. So I had to fight really hard for that. But at the same time, if it was on Adult Swim, I'd feel really weird if it's just like, yes, and he's bleeding all over, and then the suit's pretty much completely cut, and there's blood everywhere. Batman. And I'd be like, You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, there's only, like, after a while, it seems more cartoony that he didn't bleed in earlier seasons than now when he's bleeding profusely.
I mean, I feel like the big question it brings up here is the fact that, he's not aging, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's immortal. But if he's going to bleed out that much for that long, then now we question, well, does he actually have the mortality that we think he does here and we're trying to show? Or, like, is it just the joke, like, a gallon of, like, the joke you make about anime, it's like, stereotypical character has about a gallon of blood when they get cut, right? Is that what we're going for here, or is it? Yeah, it's two. No, you're 100% right. I'm happy you brought that up because it's two things that I want to say to that. Right. The first thing is if they tie it into him actually being immortal, so he really can't die for real anyway. And he has to, like, I wouldn't want him to fucking try to kill himself, commit seppuku, but, like, if something happened where, like, it was really like, he feels pain, but it does not kill him, I'd be like, well, shit, guys, you tied it in. Cool. But if they don't do that, then it wasn't even, like, anime, in my opinion, because, like, even though it was, like, a potential like that, but, like, for anime, right, you bleed on the spot as you're fighting. Like, you don't necessarily bleed on the way out for that long. Like, yes, there are some blood drops. So, like, yes, that is like, they're going to follow his trail. Not just an anime thing, of course. You're going to follow his trail because, blood drops. Yes. But I'm not saying that his hand shouldn't have been bloody or that he shouldn't have been bleeding a little bit. But, like, the problem is, I guess to some, technically it's more realistic to keep the knife in because if you pulled it out, then he'd be bleeding even more. But the way they animated the blood, it was still, I think, far too much for him to just be like, I'm good. I can live through this. I've had worse. This is slowly approaching the top of the list, though.
Yes. I know. What I did want to say, too, is that I would be very happy, speaking of, like, excessive blood, I would be very happy to see in the future of if someone gets their artery cut and, like, they get, like, splashed, like, I mean, really, like, crazy, like, anime or live-action splatter, like, like, that would be fun and, like, a nod to, Japanese cinema or to anime. But, and I know we already got someone's throat slit, but,
well, that was the big thing, how we were talking about Jack in previous seasons, and I forget exactly what you had mentioned. We were talking about him fighting, robots versus people. It's like, he cut him in half, but it's okay because it's a robot. You don't have to worry. Even Jack has that mentality after all this time. He even says, like, Aku thinks his machines can destroy me, but in the end, they're just nuts and bolts. Just nuts and bolts. And then he goes to cut one of the daughters of Aku and actually slits her throat, and he realizes, oh, dear God, I just killed someone. Like,
because
I don't do that. Like, no matter how bad it is, I don't kill people.
Yeah.
I just did.
And some might say, it's like it's just convenient, like that he's never killed someone, But like the thing is that he's had training from such a young age, so he's really just been sparring, like when he had to train to fight Aku, and then when he gets thrown into the future, it's either him fighting Aku, him fighting like Aku's minions, which happen to be robots because they're a lot easier to kind of, I guess, cultivate, right? To make robots and send them out.
Yeah.
Manufacture, that's a better word. Yes, cultivate. They are not Cybermen. But still, and even then, Cybermen aren't quote unquote people. Immediately get you get an email from a Cyberman, just like referring to Cyberman rights, but it's all like and Anyway, but
Oh, jeez.
still, point is that they're robots, and even the people, ones that look like people, they were still augmented. So like, it was this weird middle ground that Jack can get through. Or if they were aliens, which like wasn't like they were still living beings, but like there's a kind of there's some kind of middle ground with aliens, but like these are legit children. Because that's the thing too, right? They look older, but then when you cut them and you see under the mask, you realize, oh damn, they're technically just teenagers at this point. It's just that granted, they're probably like only a few days old. I don't know how the fuck Aku's magic or demonic presence works, because literally they're born and then like a week later, yes, you are ready to fight. What?
Oh, right, okay.
So I don't even know how old they really are. They look like they're only like a couple days or like a week old, but they're figures. You think they're women, but then when you take off the mask, they're clearly like teenagers.
So
and
you
I think
wonder
that also hurt Jack too. What?
Yeah, if it's like a time skip that we're not aware of, because sometimes it just happens in a series, or whether it's like you say, like they've apparently matured very quickly, and like it's like, oh, you were born a week ago, and now you're ready to take on the samurai. Excuse me?
I think they have to be born a week ago, because even though there are time skips, they still made it look as if the woman who is running the entire operation is the same woman that was there during the virgin birth. And yes, there could be a time skip, but like, I don't know. I know that Aku has all the time in the world because he's running this shit, but it's really weird. Like, it's very convoluted. Like, I will make this happen, and then 15 years later, they will arrive. You know what I mean? Like, that's a really fucking convoluted, like, that's going to take a while,
Aku. It's
Aku.
been over 50 years. I figured he'd just come out and fight me at this point, but he's just wandering about. I don't know how I can handle that.
I am curious, though. I find it very interesting, like, psychologically, like, that you would have Aku seeming like it's weird in a way. I guess, like, it's strange, because in a way I feel weird that Aku seems bored, because here's the thing, right? Maybe we just didn't see him bored before Jack arrived. So he was bored before Jack arrived, and then it's just like an alarm goes off. I sent him to now! And so, like, then he just got happier for, like, a good maybe, like, 25 to 30 years, because he could just fuck with Jack every day.
Right.
Because the reason why, like, look, I understand someone being like, oh, but you're going to get bored if you're going to fuck with, like, you're going to get bored eventually. And I get that, mindset. But this is a demon who's essentially run things for hundreds and thousands of years in some ways or another.
Right.
So, like, 50 human years shouldn't be like, oh, I'm just so bored,
I
what
think
do
the
I do?
idea,
Like,
I think the idea of it, though, is he's not really bored. He's trying to hide the fear he has of Jack, because, like Jack even says, Aku doesn't know that he doesn't have his sword anymore. If Aku knew that, he'd be on his ass like 24/7, like, I'm going to kill you now. It's like, because he would have just gone and done it himself, because it's like, you can't hurt me anymore. So I feel like it's the sense that Aku is like, why isn't he coming after me? And he hasn't kind of put two and two together yet, which is odd, because he was always watching him before. Why did he stop watching him now? So it is weird still in a sense. But the idea that, Jack is the only thing that Aku is afraid of, and, he's the master of masters. I'm not supposed to be afraid of anything, and yet this samurai and his God-blessed sword is still a thorn in my side, even after all this time. But he's also confused. Oh, I guess, no, because then he'd see that he's not carrying the sword. But I guess he's confused in the sense that, like, why haven't you come and attacked me yet? What the fuck are you waiting for? Because Aku's destroyed the time portals. So he's like, apparently, like, according to him, like, there's no way for Jack to get home. So it's like, he has no other option but to fight me now. And that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the point where everything's in my favor. Come fight me.
Yes. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you very much because you actually helped me lead right into my next point, like helped me transition very well, because I mentioned this to you before the podcast began, but I want to mention it here. So I didn't acknowledge to you before the podcast began that they did mention that, yes, like briefly, but mentioned like Aku destroyed all the portals. So as a way to try to say like, oh, there is no way to get back, so Jack has lost hope. Yeah. However, two things. One, and this one I just thought of because of I just remembered that. First thing is, Jack always thought that the last time portal was destroyed. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he never sat back like, oh, like, in other words, yes, he kind of had hope, yes. But he was like, well, that way's been destroyed, and that may be my only way back. And then everything faded to black, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You're like, 8? Back to
I
the
guess
past,
it's like,
samurai. Like, so
I guess it's just happened
yeah.
so many times to him now that he's finally starting to, like, there can't be that many left, or maybe there aren't any at all, and he's just losing ways of finding out now.
Good point.
He's just at the
next thing I wanted to bring up, yeah, because I mentioned this to you before the show began. I just want to bring this up. Even if all the time portals are destroyed, the one thing that I feel like this show is going against, and again, it's trying to be overarching, and there's trying to be a lot going on. So like they don't want, it's not every episode having its own little thing, because whenever episode had its own little thing, they were able to introduce a lot of different concepts like magic or other magical beings, or like beings that like had like essentially like the Force or like other spiritual presence inside them. We are being serious here. Like it felt like there was a lot going on there with a bunch of different people in this world that he inhabits. The problem is that now all of a sudden it feels like there is no magic left. Now again, it's not necessarily just about going back to the past or not. It's not even about that anymore for me. It's, oh, he lost his sword. Very reasonable. A great plot point, because it just makes sense. After 50 years, there has to be a situation where a split-second fuck-up means that the sword slides off of some kind of, platform.
Yeah.
It just has to happen. He's almost lost his sword even during the first 4 seasons. It just had to happen. It makes sense. My problem is, because the sword is forged from like godly beings and and justice and all that stuff, you would just think that he could go up to someone who could tell him, I know where the sword could be. Go down here and speak to this monk, or the magical fairy dragon will be able to guide you. Like, you would think that in a world filled with all of these magical creatures, there would be some way for him to either find the sword, and I'm not saying it's easy to just rebuild it, because it's not easy, but, there has to be some kind of way to contact these gods. Aku did not destroy them. At least from it doesn't seem like Aku destroyed. So they still exist. They are watching. So there should be some way to have a direct communication to either his ancestors, to, the gods, or at least in a way to find the sword. So I hope that's referenced later in some way or another, but I do think that that's a kind of a problem, because I know I should have suspension of disbelief, but they've introduced so many different magical concepts in this show already.
Right.
And people that know, they had that monastery with those monks.
Yeah.
There should be a decent amount of magical people. And it's funny, these just magical people. But seriously, people who have magic or some other form of witchcraft, that should be able to point him in the right direction.
Or some other supernatural ability.
Thank you. Supernatural is the word I really was looking for. So that there should be some way for him to at least find where the sword exists. And I'm a little worried, even though I wouldn't hate this completely, I'm a little worried that he's going to get in contact with the gods, and they're going to be like, the sword is with you all along, Jack. And he's going to, pull it out of himself because he is justice.
Yeah.
I kind of worry about that. I'm not saying it wouldn't be badass in a way, but I kind of worry that it turns into Wizard of Oz just a little bit.
I don't think that's going to happen, just to me, in my opinion.
The wolf can
I feel
be
like I feel like at some point he is going to like I feel like that's what the series is going to do. He's kind of at a 180 right now, and I feel like at some point in this series he's going to go back to being the Jack we all know him to be, and he will reclaim the sword. You know, something's going to happen to him to put that hope back into him, because even in the original series there were plenty of times where Jack has lost hope and he's like, I can't do it alone. You know, that's always been the problem. I'm here alone doing this by myself. And something always comes back to remind him, no, you're not alone. And a lot of that has been through the spirits of, you know, his ancestors, his parents even, or even the people he's met in the future. Of course, here we kind of have Jack's mind playing tricks on him, and, you know, whatever psychological effects he's probably most likely feeling whenever he sees flashes of his ancestors or even his father. It's always been kind of fire and brimstone now, like, you've forsaken us, you've forgotten us, you know, you've forgotten your purpose. And
well, that's because he's legit losing it.
Right, he's exactly. So
no, like, it's bad. Like, it's pretty bad, everyone.
Oh no, like, dude, when he had the talk with himself, I mean, even that's a red flag right there. It's like, you're talking to previous you. It's like, oh shit.
Well, yeah.
Even
and by
you
the way,
brought it up
that.
earlier. Like, he even has the idea of there's no honor in this. Well, actually, there's one way that I could still go honorably and join our ancestors, and he cuts him off because he doesn't actually specifically say it.
Yeah, I wonder if
even that they hinted at it, though, I was like, oh shit! Like,
yeah, I wonder if
we're
they
going
couldn't
there.
or just didn't. Yeah, I wonder why they didn't reference it directly, and I'm happy they didn't, because I do, you know, I don't want them to have that intricate talk, at least not yet, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting because, you know, it makes sense too. Like, I do like that they made sure to try and sit there and be a little bit more realistic. Where, like, oh, it makes sense that, you know, if you're in isolation for 50 motherfucking years.
Not to mention the absurd amount of paranoia that you could have at that point.
Oh, yes, of course. And let's say anyone, because think about it, unless we see them, right, unless it is stated, you know, in the show, everyone he knew is dead. Like, even from this time. Anyone he could have built up any kind of relationship with. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, who killed them? But no, right? If the Scotsman, if he was 20 at the time, which he did not look 20, he would be 70 now.
Yeah.
And he does not look 20. So I'm just saying that, like, anyone that he knew, even from this time, could be long gone. So
Possibly.
he is truly alone.
Right.
Like, you don't know. Like, and I hope that they're not, right? But even then, like, it's still a thing where, like, what has Jack been doing? Because, like, it seems like, at least at this point in his life, 50 years is not just, like, the way we saw it. We're like, oh, yeah, you know, he'll get some time to himself, and solitude is nice, you know? No, it's clearly getting to him because it's 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference between being like, oh, you know what? I'm okay with being alone for, like, a few months. Now, we don't know how much time Jack spent alone out of the first 4 seasons. We don't know how, like, we don't know anything about the time frame and how that worked. But still, you know, getting to talk to people every once in a while and then mostly being alone for, like, I was alone for a week or I was alone for a month is a lot different than having a 50-year span where even if it's like I helped one person or I talked to one person here or one person there, whatever, it still becomes a big problem, you know?
Yeah. I think at this point he's kind of just fallen into the trap of, of just any living thing, any living being, organism, however you want to, you know, put it. Like, it's just his will to survive at this point. Like, it's not really about right or wrong anymore. It's just, I will not let anything kill me because I am hard programmed by everything to live. So.
Yeah, it's really sad because, you know, I'm not saying that this isn't the Jack that we can get behind, and, you know, and it makes sense again, but it's really sad that, like, this is what happened to Jack, you know. But again, that's the point, right? That's just the whole point of it, and they're supposed to, you know, build off of that and try to turn it into hopefully a positive. Like, I hope this ends on a positive, honestly, because, like, I was okay if the fourth season hadn't ended on a positive. I was cool with that. But, like, if fourth season was like, maybe he never gets back, or he makes, he can do what he can with what he has, right? But there's a difference between that and then if season 5 ends without him getting back. Like, I would be a little bit frustrated with that. Like, if season 5 is like, and it'll end with his death, I'd be like, well, you kind of just drew out a really sad story further.
Right.
Why did you do that?
Well,
you see what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I definitely get that. I would be, I would be hurt as a fan of this series if Jack, like, if things are not resolved, or if there's at least left with hope. Like, even to say, like, a possible prediction could be that Jack does die. And if he does, at least let there be someone else who takes up his mantle, who has the sword.
You.
And there is, still hope that someone will stop Aku.
Well, no. My thing is, even if he dies saving the world by destroying Aku, I'm not a big fan of that at this point, even with all the Jesus allegories that they have. Because here's the thing, right? My opinion is, I feel like if you're going to start off a season with him being really happy and happy-go-lucky and, like, nothing's changed, he can sacrifice himself at the end. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can take people's energy that you clearly kept, really, like, brought up there. Like a roller coaster, right? You really brought it up there because, let's say Jack is happy, or at the very least he's content, and he's like, I must still do this, I am not in any way disturbed. Are you not disturbed? Shut up, me. So he's just fine. Like, he's just fine. And then, like a roller coaster coming down, you kill him at the end of the season. But he destroys Aku. So the world is saved, but sadly it is a world without Jack. And he gets to, and maybe you show him seeing his ancestors in the afterlife as like a kind of bittersweet moment, but he's still dead. I think you can do that. I think though, it is a problem to me for it to be like, man, isn't he sad all season? Yeah, this sucks. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's going to try and be himself again, but I mean, it's still pretty sad. Oh, yeah, it is. And now he's dead. That's not a roller coaster. That's just kind of a downward spiral.
I mean,
I'm just not a big fan of that kind of story. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Yeah. No, I get you. I feel like it kind of depends on the story, like depending on whether that's appropriate or not. But I feel like in this case, it's a possibility. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's a possibility. I'm just not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm not the biggest fan. I don't know if it'd be if it'd work. If, like, after all these years, you bring people down, and then at the end of the season are like, yeah, no, this is done. Like, you can't continuously do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, like, I'm not a big fan of that kind of, I don't know, I guess, wave of negative feelings.
Right.
Because, like, I'm not saying it can't happen a little bit, but, like, if it, going on for that long, that is a bit of a problem. That's all I'm saying. Like, if it went on for the entire season, like, he was this way the entire season, then he gets to fight Aku, confronts his fears, and then dies from it. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad story. I'm just saying it's a bit of a problem. Also, Tristan, looks like they're starting up that Toonami.
Right.
So is there anything else you want to say about the first 3 episodes?
Yeah, I love the fight.
Yeah, because it's pretty much, because it's,
2 and 3, like, just the daughters of Aku, holy crap. They are no joke. And even, like, Jack even has a flashback. Okay.
I'd like to pause and say something. Thankfully, they're starting with Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters, so I don't have to be subjected to watching the motherfucking show for the podcast. So they actually may have skipped.
Okay.
They may have actually skipped.
They skipped
Samurai
Jack and Super. Right.
Oh.
Skipped Jack and Super and went straight to Kai figures.
Okay, you see, that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so please go on.
But yeah, I actually, the fact that there was a flashback in the 3rd episode after they track Jack and he's kind of stitched himself up and he's like ready for round 2. He even has a flashback to his father when they were, his father was the emperor. So, like, of course there are people trying to assassinate him. And it's funny because the assassins actually are a reference to like designs that they've used earlier in the series when they did that Lone Wolf and Cub. Sorry, my dad's comic is staring at me, so I think Lone Bear instead of Lone Wolf is the actual series.
Yes.
But the reference that they make to Lone Wolf, the assassins with the gray geese and then the basket masks that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's father gets out of the carriage. They say, "Oh, we're going to assassinate you and take your place as emperor." And his father stops and he says, I'll give you one chance. I'll give you a choice. You can leave now and leave with your lives, or you will meet your destiny." And so, of course, they jump him, and he slices right through them, and Jack gets that blood spray across his eyes when he's a child.
Mm-hmm.
And his father is cleaning him off, and Jack's, like, really kind of disturbed by it, because, I mean, he's a little kid. Of course that's going to terrify him, especially when it's your father, and his father looks at him, saddened, and he's like, I forget the exact line that he uses, but his father basically tells him, he's like, I wouldn't just do that for the sake of doing it, though. Like, I gave them a choice. I gave them a chance to walk away. But, of course, I had you and your mother in the carriage. I'm not going to let them near you. I had to defend myself and the two of you. Mm-hmm. And I hope that you can understand that one day, when you get older. And, of course, that's the choice that Jack has to make. That Jack has to make. It's like, just because you harm others doesn't mean it was your choice to do it. Or the fact that it doesn't reflect negatively on you if you give your opponents a choice.
It is truly one of the best ways to transition into a season, where you're going to have him kill people.
Right.
And try to tell those stories so that every little thing doesn't have to be a mecha robot from the future. Right.
And the fact that Jack is still the hero. It's like, no, he hasn't just lost his humanity and he doesn't care anymore. It's like, it's either me or you. I'm going to give you a choice to walk away because I don't want to have to kill you. But if you come at me, then all bets are off. I'm not going to hold back because I have something that I need to do. Yeah,
and I think that I was really a big fan of, I think I was really a big fan, really. No, but I really was a big fan of that because, again, I understand, we want to transition into him, potentially killing people, but how can we do that, right? Because it would be terrible if they were like, nah, he's just cool with it. That would have killed me. That would have killed me if he was just fine with it. Just like, yeah, well, you know what? I mean, they came for me, man. What am I going to do? No, that's not Jack. Even in the state that he's in. That still is a bit too far off from who he should be.
Him.
So the fact that he was just like, no, I can't believe that happened. I really thought that they were robots. Because, again, anytime Haku sends anyone, you would assume they're a robot.
It's been robots.
And maybe that's a good thing from Haku's point of view. He won't kill people. Or, if at the end, not only are they my well-trained assassins, right? But if it ends up being a thing where he sees that they are human or they are people, he might hesitate. Now, what's interesting is I do wonder if they're going to take what do they call them? Aku's
the daughters,
warriors,
daughters of Aku.
The daughters of Aku. Thank you. If they take them and they actually start to see the world outside, and that starts to change them a little bit, and they bring out Jack's humanity a little bit.
Yeah. That was actually another interesting point when they're in the forest tracking Jack, and they find the deer.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yo, what is it? And I'm like, oh, God, that's right. You don't know anything else but murder. That's literally
you
all
you know. What they've told you, yeah. Okay, you have to go out and kill this guy. There might be other creatures there. Do not engage. Go kill this guy. That's all you know.
Or just kill anything that gets in your way, basically.
Yeah.
And even the sense
deer
of
immediately.
The deer are rubbing noses, and they're like, oh, it's disgusting. I don't like it. I have to kill it. And it's like, oh, crap, right. You're...
but you're just stop anything gets in your way. The deer stand up on all fours. You will not destroy Jack.
Oh, God.
We are the deer people of the forest. Yeah, we are the deer people of the forest. You will not destroy Samurai Jack.
And even
he saved us once. Like he saved my wife from a hunter's bullet. All right, this is bullshit.
Oh God.
I'm not here to fucking watch future Bambi. But yeah, no, yeah. So I really think that overall these episodes were well crafted. I do think that overall. I just say that, and I even like the first episode, the way they reintroduced Jack. I think they did it really well. I just worry about the future of the show, and I don't want it to get too edgy. And it's happened very rarely throughout these 3 episodes. But I just don't want it to feel like it's going on again. You know, I want it to feel like it's weird because I know it's on Adult Swim, but again, I worry that when creators are given more of a free reign on certain networks that are, allow a lot more, like it's like, oh my God, here's what we can do, so let's do this, right? So in other words, if it's just like, hey, let's just say they were on HBO, right? It would be weird to me. It's like, hey, we're on HBO now. Let's show Jack fucking. And it's like, we should not. No, but let's have him get into a girl. And let's have him get in bed with her. Even if we don't show much. Yes, but just the sheer fact that he's having sex, can we not? Right? There are certain things that just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
So in this situation, I'm just saying that just because they're on Adult Swim, I don't really think they need to have all that blood. Now, granted, when he killed her, yes, you needed that. That made sense stylistically. That was a choice you needed. When Jack was covered in blood, I thought that the artistic value went over the idea of it just being blood for the sake of blood. But when he's bleeding out like that, it felt like other than him having to put his hand on the wall or maybe 1 or 2 drops, it felt like it was mostly blood for the sake of blood. Oh, wait, we can show blood on here? Great.
I mean,
and it felt a little too much.
Probably also comes from a place of we've had to hold that back in this series for way too long. So
right.
It's kind of just probably a self-indulgent moment of I can finally put the blood in. All right. Let's not go crazy with this. We should, still do it, artistically. It's always been the point of, all right, fuck it, just put all the blood in, all of it, just for a few seconds. But no,
so
it is
apparently
still part of the art.
Apparently my DVR actually recorded Samurai Jack, and if I play this week, and if I play Samurai Jack right now, I'm currently watching Rick and Morty. So I guess I have Rick and Morty on my DVR now? ? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm so confused. This isn't Samurai Jack. Anyway, yeah. So I'm a big fan of what I've seen thus far. I don't think we really can talk about it much because it's only 3 episodes. But I mean, there's a lot that the future can hold, and next time you see us, we probably will be doing 4 to 6.
I do have a prediction for the future, though.
Please.
A possible prediction.
Just please throw it out there.
So, a friend of mine actually pointed out something very important. Not all of the daughters were specifically killed on screen. He drops one of them.
That's what I was. Yes. Yeah. I assume one will live and then realize that. That's what I was saying, talking about the humanity aspect. But yes, go on.
Yeah. I feel like if it kind of plays into my earlier talk, if Jack does die, maybe Jack will, or in a reverse sense from what you're saying, Jack will show humanity to her, and she might take up his mantle if he doesn't survive.
Or at least they'll try to work together, at the very least.
Oh, yeah, at the very least. He might make a new ally. Maybe not right away.
That's what everyone will love. Samurai Aku's daughter, Season 1, 2019, confirmed. That's what everyone will fucking love. Great, our beloved character died, and now he's replaced with some random 5-day-old.
I mean, yeah, it would be a bit awkward, but
No. If they never continue the show and it's just there's hope, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
If they're actually here's what we're going to do. No. I mean, granted, I'm not saying it wouldn't be good. I'm just saying that people would,
It'd be
everyone would be Yeah.
guy.
However, I do think us talking about the idea, because remember I brought up the idea of like there being an army. It would be nice if the two of them can try to get people together to try and take down Aku, sword or not.
Right.
Yeah, because it would be very interesting. You
can't do it
technically
without the sword.
But
you can't.
Here's the thing, though. You're like, you can do it with a sword.
No, I know.
No,
I know.
but
I'm just being an ass.
I know, because I'm like, all right then, so the show's never going to end then.
Yep.
It's going to be going on once a week for the rest of our lives. What do you mean? What can we do? Anyway, Tristan doesn't really partake in April Fools. I have to explain to him this is not an April Fool's. He's just being a dick. It's not how April Fool's works. You're just being an asshole.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh.
I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you all for listening in to our live podcast, our truly live podcast. Man, did we fuck up. But it's okay. But it's okay, because next time you see us, it'll be 4 to 6, and it potentially won't be a fuck up. And it won't be live either, most likely. Most likely, because I can't do this with you every 3 weeks. I don't think I can justify this with you every 3 weeks. I feel like you just kill me after a while. But anyway, so I want to thank you all. This was so much fun, despite what happened. And, you know, I want to mention that I mentioned our YouTube channel, Those Guys Play. You can also check out our podcast that you're clearly listening to one right now. But I don't know where you're listening to it. You could be listening to us through our YouTube channel, Those Guys on the Radio, which has our archived stuff. You could be listening to us through Those Guys, which is our iTunes account, right? You could have searched up Those Guys on iTunes and found us through there. You could have searched up Those Guys on the Radio on Blog Talk Radio, because our account is blogtalkonradio.com/thoseguysontheradio, and you could have found us that way. Either way, we do a lot of different podcasts, and if you want to find out what specific podcasts, you can go to our social media pages, like our Facebook, which is /ThoseGuysOnTheRadio, our Twitter, which is @ThoseGuysRadio, and our Instagram, which is /ThoseGuysOnTheRadio. Also, our main website, which is tgproduction.net or thoseguysontheradio.tumblr.com. Both websites have our merchandise on it. Not only updates on our podcasts and our Let's Plays, but merch as well. So you can buy some merchandise over at tgproduction.net/merchandise or over at our eBay, which is /ThoseGuysRadio. And we have a lot of cool, fun T-shirts there that relate to our podcast or to our Let's Plays. So it's a lot of fun, right? So that's nice. That's that. And thinking, Matt, is there anything else? There is our Patreon, which is called TG Production. You can go there to help support us with our Blog Talk Radio, funds every month, and also with the fact that if you guys love our Let's Plays, right, then it would be beneficial if we were able to get other technology to help bring you guys even more Let's Plays, right? So different kind of capture cards or other kinds of systems that we could actually bring even more Let's Plays your way, right? Easier. So that would be a lot of fun if you can help us get those. And, right, not just, look, donating our way helps us do our thing, and that's amazing. But it's not like you won't be getting anything out of it either. Depending on how much you donate our way, how much you throw our way, there are different tiers that we can actually give you things as well. So depending on how much you donate, actually what will end up happening is, depending on how much you donate, depending on how much you donate, you could actually get us to do a specific show for you for the podcast. So it could be like, oh, what's your favorite Samurai Jack episode? Top 5 Samurai Jack episodes, or something along those lines. It doesn't just have to be, oh, can you do this episode of Samurai Jack? We could devote a podcast to it, but we don't have to do that. Like, it could literally just be us doing like top 5 animated cartoon shows or top 5 anime shows or something like that. Same thing with the Let's Plays as well. You can say, hey, we want you and Tristan, or you and Anthony, or you and whoever. It doesn't have to even be me. It could be anyone on the Let's Plays that we've done on Those Guys Play. You can get any of us to do an episode for you guys, an episode. So it could be anything. It could be like, hey, do this video game for 20 minutes or for 30 minutes, or, we'll talk about the times if it really needs to break it down. And, it can be a lot of fun, right, because you can mix and match people that you've never seen before, right, get on the show, and it'll be very interesting. Or we can give you guys a shout-out on the show. So you can be like, hey, I want to get shout-outs on, one podcast a week for the entire month, right? And what will end up happening is we'll be like, sure. And so we'll say, hey, sponsored by so-and-so for every podcast, right? Same thing with the Let's Plays as well. If you want it for the Let's Plays, we can do it for the Let's Plays as well. So anywho, we're done here. I want to thank you all for listening in and listening through all of that. I'm just extremely thrown off because it seems as if Dragon Ball Z Kai already ended. And I'm like, how long is this? Like, Didn't this just start? What's happening? So Matt is thoroughly confused. I think that's the theme, isn't it, Tristan? Just tonight, just thoroughly confused?
Yep. Pretty much.
All right. Anyway, so want to thank you all for listening in, as always. And I hope you had fun, because we did, but it's still very confused in the meantime. All right, then. So thank you all. Hope you have a good night. And say good night, Tristan.
Back to the
Back.
past.
But the new Samurai Jack airs in the future, Tristan. Whatcha?